Welcome, everyone. Happy May something. Haven't been around in a while. Hope everybody had a great Mother's Day, Easter. I can't remember what the last time was. Anyway, I found myself with some extra time here and a suitably short presentation. So I figured I'd give this a little go. Let me see who I have trying to contact me here. One sec. Anyway, so what I'm going to be talking about today is a small set of photos from 2007 that covers a visit of an informal trip that my quote-unquote home NRHS chapter from New Jersey decided to take down to Baltimore, where I was living at the time. They wanted to ride the metro, the subway, the light rail, and then head by the Baltimore Streetcar Museum. And since I was local, I had no issues with, quote-unquote hosting, guiding, whatever they wanted to do. So you're going to get that. And so it's the Baltimore light rail followed by the metro, and then or Streetcar Museum, and then I think they did the metro at the end of the day. Of course, we started off here at Penn Station, where we have the front of a HHP8 number 6058 with the notice right there. It might be hard to see, but the rear view mirror is deployed. They had both these and the Acellas had special hydraulically operated mirrors, due to the high speed or whatever. In this case, also notes it's wrong railing on track 6 at Penn Station, which would happen occasionally on weekends due to either maintenance or whatever's going on. Since the Mount Royal station is close enough to Baltimore Penn, I usually just walk. I would always just walk it. I mean, there's you can take the Penn Station connection. I don't know if we walked it or not. We did have some mobility impaired people on this trip, who later had some walking issues, so we probably just waited for the shuttle. But it's almost always faster to walk to the Mount Royal station as opposed to taking that short shuttle. At this point, I'm betting that it's unclear if the light rail had been revised yet. Back in the day, the service patterns were Hunt Valley to Glen Burnie, which is the full length of the line, and then a second line that would run from Penn Station to BWI Airport. This left the large portions of the line with only one headway. Usually about either 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Especially since the entire northern part of the line would only have one service. Again, running every half hour or so. At some point, this was changed to Hunt Valley to Glen Burnie and the airport to Timonium. With the Penn Station stub being reduced to a shuttle. It's interesting that that Penn Station connection was built, but like the one in Pittsburgh, it ultimately didn't really matter and sort of waned in importance, as most people would take a taxi or something else to get downtown. I think if that shuttle had way more frequent service, like every 5 minutes or at least 10, more people would have taken it. But it was always, forget about the shuttle being or whatever. The regular, when it was still the line service, it was still pretty infrequent. So here we have number 5052 here entering at Mount Royal. Hold here. So technically, Maryland goes by MTA, but since there's so many other MTAs, I always tag it as the MTA Maryland or Maryland MTA. M8M. I think some people call it the Maryland MTA. I just do MTA Maryland. That's the best way to square the circle. I was just reading up on the light rail vehicles. These were built by ABB. Most of them were, but a few of them were built by AAI. Were built locally. They have a facility in Hunt Valley. I don't know how they built the stuff. They can't see any indication of a rail connection. Maybe they just subcontracted and then built the stuff at the shops. AAI makes drones for the U.S. Air Force and Army right now. Here we have 50-50, probably on the same train. Beautiful weather that day, good lighting, especially at this time in the morning, which would have been in, this would have taken place in June 16th. Here we have number 5012 and 5050. Yeah, okay. So yeah, they'd already switched to the better service pattern. So you can see that's a Timonium and a Cromwell. So the way the Mount Royal shuttle, the Penn Station shuttle would work is that they would find certain gaps in serve. Oh, it wouldn't just go. So for a time, the quote unquote Penn Station shuttle would literally operate. It would enter the main line at Penn Station and then turn around because it could do that there. It just goes in and out. Eventually, they realized that was dumb, and they had it run to Camden Yards. But at that point, it might have actually impacted the service. But that created an additional frequency on that center trunk, the downtown trunk. These are actually very long light rail vehicles, even for the North American market. I think there's something like 95 feet. They are articulated in the middle, and each car is 1,000 horsepower. Baltimore is generally considered to be the second modern light rail system built in the United States after San Diego Trolley in the early 1980s. This came a good 10 years afterwards. Quite possibly as a response to any costs and experienced with the heavy rail metro. One second, I think that's 1512, not 15. Yeah, it's 1512. I marked that as 1542 in the other one. You know, again, cleaning up past mistakes. Or it's 50, 40, 5012. Here we have, so we rode it up to Timonium. Here's 5021 at Timonium. And then we just came back to the downtown. You'll see how this worked in a second. Again, beautiful weather for photos that day. I don't know why this one. Okay, this is this appears to be a near duplicate, so I'm going to agree with my past self there. It looks like I have two duplicates, but this one's sufficiently different. Fuck. Okay, I guess I was wrong. So we went immediately to the Baltimore Streetcar Museum. I'm not sure if there's a lunch involved there. There's some of the people in our chapter. Dottie, I think that was the former president guy who's standing next to the conductor there. I really don't need. It's again. I need to get out to the Baltimore Streetcar Museum a lot more. I don't. Not it's partly just out of the stuff is pretty much. I mean, when I say I need to get out there more, it means I need to get out there for more of their events. I always see photos of my friends who go there. And they never let me know when they're going. I don't know why. I don't think they don't like me. But I definitely need to make that clear of like, please, when you're going down to the BSM, invite me. Although I will say that last year I got invited to do a special photo shoot there, but unfortunately I was going to like Yosemite Park or had a thing with home. I should follow up with them. See if I can get that invite again. I'm always a little wary of overdoing things like streetcar museums, because they do have their content is somewhat limited. This, like, even National Capital, I was quote unquote saving National Capital for some time, and I went there and I was exactly right. It's kind of lackluster. It's good to go once, but not. BSM is way better than National Capital. You get a lot more repeatability there, but still, I'm still sure that I could wear out on it. These are the Hostler controls in that 1930s one, the yellow one that you might have seen, because it's nominally a single-ended car, but it does have reverse controls. It has an air brake valve and a little tiny controller, probably only good for the first couple of notches. Kind of cute. See, that's the one, that yellow one there in the back. This is going to be a pretty, like I said, it's going to be a pretty short presentation today. Not, that short, but it's going to be about a 3/4 of one length. So no matter how, I'll always say that I will try to get out of here quickly. I'm sure I'll be proven wrong. But, 1 second. Fuck. Hit the thing there. There we go. Sorry about that. There's your auxiliary controller. Not much really there. So this is one of those SEPTA cars I was talking about. It's not on the normal thing because it hadn't been re-gauged to Baltimore streetcar gauge, which is 5'4" and a bunch, versus Pennsylvania streetcar gauge, which was 5'2" and a quarter, or sometimes 5'2" and a half. This at the time was labeled. It was number 2187. This is the this was the SEPTA's one of their PCC based wire train, and BSM didn't want it in that MOW orange. So this was they painted the front of what would ultimately become its long term scheme of red and cream. I like how it's sort of hiding behind the sweet gum tree there. The second track at BSM was not yet placed in service at this point, but you can see it's been laid. Eventually, BSM would have two out. Instead of having mostly single track, they would modify it for a much more double track operation, with only the single track going past the Maryland Department of Transportation maintenance yard at the end. This is that one that I think that at some point in the past I mentioned had been scrapped. Strange. Oh, it looks like that was one I skipped. See, this is why I like going again. This is some found footage here. So number 2160 was eventually scrapped for parts since the roof wasn't great. We've gone over that in other photo sets. We're looking down the delivery ramp. You can sort of see the tracks here are sort of inclined. When the PCCs arrive from Philly on the back of a flatbed, they're rolled down this ramp. $21.60. That's the old Maryland and Pennsylvania freight station back there. That's used as a one of the BSM's sort of shop facility. It's like an auxiliary machine shop, storage, and stuff that doesn't take not the normal shop complex for typical repairs. Oh, we got a lot of people here. Yes, the northern half of the Baltimore Light Rail is the Northern Central. The southern half is on the Baltimore and Annapolis interurban right-of-way. The vast majority of that. No, I didn't. This year, isn't the SEPTA Rodeo usually in the fall? So would that have been the 2022nd? No, I've been. At first, I didn't see the announcement, and two, I've been to quite a few of them, so I don't. It's a lower priority item. No, they don't run the freight. They used to pretty regularly up through the early 2000s. I'm sure that if they wanted to, there's a. I don't think Baltimore the light rail actively tries to seek out freight service. It had it for a while, but they kind of, I think it was, they have all the FRA waivers to do it, but there's just not the political will to try to drum up the traffic. Reading and Northern style. Trolley museums definitely can be a lot of fun. It all depends on what they got. The National Capitol has a pretty nice collection, but they don't seem to get a lot of it out. It just sort of run the PCC back and forth. BSM has a lot of fun with its stuff. They always bring out different things. They always have 2 to 4 different things going on. A lot of members' days, operating days, etc. Yeah, the IRM looks great. It's just not a place that I usually typically get out to. If I'm in Chicago, I don't have a car or the time to go down and see it. All right, here we go. Here's that one that I skipped, or that old me skipped, or the other one was the one that skipped. Now we're back on track, I should say. Here we have the work train 2187. This is the original how it came from SEPTA in its maintenance of way orange, which was a nice fad they had. CSX liked to do that for a while too, and Amtrak. But it's unfortunately it seems that the whole let's paint things maintenance of way orange is no longer a popular option. Here we have 1164. This is one of their faster cars. It is hand-braked. I believe this is the one they claim to be the fastest hand-braked open car in the world. You keep adding qualifiers and eventually you get your record. And a little side shot of 2187, or at least part of it. I like the maintenance away orange. Yeah, I mean, like, you look at the new paint scheme now, and they actually have to put work car on it so that people know it's a work car. So this is where they're putting in the track to what would be their 4th bay. The normal shop complex is 3. They went through a prolonged period where they took out 2 of the shop tracks to be able to reroute things. They're using girder rail that was recovered in the city, and they're using what they call the Melbourne method of track bed construction, where they gauge out the rails and they they just embed them in concrete, as opposed to putting down ties and then putting the concrete on top of that. By gauging out, they mean those metal bars as opposed to spiking them into ties. So now we've walked from the BSM down to, we're going to be going to the State Center Metro Metro station. You can transfer from from the light rail to the heavy rail at both State Center. That's about a block walk in Lexington Market. But at this point, we went down into what used to be the under the Mount Royal train shed. They built in 1890 along with the rest of the Baltimore Beltway. This was the Uptown station from Camden, the Camden Yards or Camden Street station. There's the famous Howard Street Tunnel. By this point, it's a single track for clearance purposes. And then this is the start of what they call the Northern Avenue passing siding. It's about a mile-long siding between here and where I used to live, directly north of the city. At Huntington Ave is where the other interlocking is, but the signal for that would be right near where my apartment was. Even to this day, you can see the cameras and stuff. So this is probably a pretty after the fire. They definitely and 9/11. They definitely were worrying about people like mucking about in there. So you don't see a lot of urbex inside the tunnel. So again, at this point, you have. The southbound signals have both either the 3 upper or 3 lower orbitals. So that means you're going to get approach medium, approach slow, or the straight route, or medium approach medium, medium approach slow, or medium clear. This is because the next Bailey's the HB Tower, or I think it's more Bailey interlocking, would have a slow speed route onto the Y track, and it had medium speed crossovers. Trying to remember what I'm doing here with my naming conventions. If I'm adding a Baltimore terminal sub to things now, I can go take a quick look. So I'm just checking what I've been doing at other locations. Probably should add the BT sub onto it. This is going to be the westbound direction. There we go. Here's your westbound mast, mounted up on the old wall of the retaining wall there. I don't know how many tracks the old train shed had. It's been part of the Maryland Institute College of Art for some time as a class and event space. The likelihood of it ever being reused is very low. And here we have, of course, the sort of darkened outline of the dwarf. So before these were replaced in about 2012, I was able to get down there with a better camera and got some better angles. I didn't really, muck about with trying. I think it would have been possible to get into the right of way there. There's a degree of fencing, but I just didn't feel like dealing with it with all the Howard Tunnel cameras and stuff. I do have other Mount Royal photos. I could look that up. Yeah, there they are. Alright, I didn't put the BT sub, so I guess I'm just going to delete that and just go straight with the Mount Royal name. There we go. Oh, I'm remembering it was what I did last week with you guys. Or not last week, but last time around. Okay. Sorry, just checking that out. Alright, here we go. So you can see the train shed would have spanned probably 4 tracks with duck boards to allow level boarding between them all. How they manage that with, they probably had how they manage that with train movements, I don't know, so people didn't get run over, all the holdouts. They probably had 2 through tracks and then 2 other station tracks. The amount of the clearance is pretty crazy, even today with digging it down as much as they could. Just goes to show how stuff has grown. This would have also been the site of the first mainline electrification in the 1890s. Again, in the 1890s, it was a helper assist type. You might probably seen photos. It started with an odd third rail system, but it's an overhead mounted third rail that you think isn't that overhead catenary, but it wasn't a wire. It was a beam with a diagonally mounted like shuttle running on like a tilted, kind of like a pantograph, but kind of like a third rail. It's very strange. I'll see if I can pull it up. Unfortunately, Wikipedia doesn't have a lot of good stuff about that early Baltimore and Ohio electrification, but if you go to Baltimore Beltline, that typically covers it. Yeah, see, this is the original third rail system, overhead third rail system. Here's one of those early electric locomotives. Again, it was for steam assist, so the steam engines would idle, and this would pull them through the tunnels. They would then pull away at the top of the hill, and then pull off the track, and then the steam locomotives would proceed. This is all to try to get things up. Baltimore does not have good terrain for inland movement. The electrification was moved in the 1950s once diesel, the advantages of diesel traction made the issues of circumvented the issues of steam. Here we have our little southbound position light east. Sorry, I keep saying southbound. It's the south direction, but it's railroad westbound. Even though the Pennsylvania is railroad is north south, the B&O is east west. Boy, that's going to be really grainy. I can see why I chose the wider angle. Even in the second generation digital camera, wasn't quite as good as my third generation digital camera. And here we have both of them. Probably going to get all or most of the train shed there because it looks nice. It's nice that that they were able to preserve the train shed, even with, you know, as mainly, you know, even though it's mainly shedding, you know, the active CSX locomotives. That's definitely something that could have gotten torn down for scrap back in the day. Probably check when it was actually closed. I'm betting like the 1960s. Art studio conversion, blah, blah, blah. 1961, consolidated Baltimore passenger service at Camden. Permanently ending, yep, 1960s. Micah bought it in 64. Substantial donation on the part of the B&O. Sorry, just reading here. Renovation. It departments of fiber and interdisciplinary sculpture. Cool. Nope, don't need that one. Man, my naming was so bad, even in the 27. God, like, I'm making a ton of corrections on this. North, it's not north, it's an east-west railroad. What was I thinking? Yeah, this came up recently when I was discussing some stuff with people. I gave an NRHS. I gave one of my presentations, the PR mainline signaling one. Another group wanted to see it. I need to get back to them. I've been bad about that. Anyway, I brought up to them that. So the reason I go around and obsessively take all these photos, you know, I don't have OCD. It was intentionally because I figured that at some point in the future, the technology would exist to be able to create a sort of a VR thing for people that, you know, future generations that had no ability to go out and experience it. Well, the funny thing is that today, right now, with fewer photos than I've been taking, you can actually you can actually do a VR. You can use a small number of photos to train a VR image generation system. Sorry, an AI image generation system, quote unquote AI. I know data science, and it's a bad use of the term. But let's just say a machine learning algorithm can take those photos and make them into a full 3D render of a house tour, for example. So the exact thing that I've been predicting for the last decade has come to pass much sooner than I thought too. So I'm not going to go and run out, you know, but I will at some point. We'll let the market and the stuff behind it sort of cool down a little bit. What the hell? Next. Oh, that's it for round 2. Round 3, I think, is going to be the subway. I did not have so because I was with people, I wasn't just running around taking a billion photos. So I just took them where they were. I ended up with a small amount, probably best for everybody involved. Best for me. This is a signal at someplace, but it's just pretty bad. I gotta get on, so I'm gonna be doing a bunch more. They're doing a bunch of re-signaling stuff with CBTC because Breda sold them that because they bought Ansaldo. Anyway, I gotta get on there and get like full line videos and other things. So that's gonna be my plan. Some point in the near term to go out there on a Saturday and pop by and do that. So this is an alpha photo, and it rightfully is going to get cut. Let me check to see if there's any questions in the chat. This is gonna let's see, blah blah. So for DC, 675 versus 660 is not a difference. That is 100% not a difference. Both those things could run. You could run the equipment interchangeably on both, especially with those older control systems. That stuff can run reliably down to, you could undervolt them and they'll move down to a point. You could probably get those things to move like, with an effective voltage of like 100, 120, and they could probably still work up to 800. So a 650 class of voltage is effectively, and you can even a lot of systems have even over voltage to have just permanently switched up to 750 to get better performance. The Long Island Railroad was one, like Long Island Railroad, Metro North, they just changed it to 750 because they needed more, they're drawing too many amps. So they just, going to 750 helped. Patco did that. In fact, when Patco was doing their rebuild, the original equipment they had a lot of voltage transients, and Alstom was the cars, the software was throwing a fit because they'd see 800 volts and everything would shut down, and Patco was like, "Nah, we get 800 volt spikes all the time. Just have your stuff be cool with it." 3000. So an interesting thing that. There's really two DC systems. You have your 750 volt class of DC, like we've seen here. I'm going to call it 750 volt class. Baltimore Light Rail is 750 volt overhead. Then you have your 1.5 kV class, and 3000 is really just 1.5. But okay, for back in the day, they just ran everything in series. Motor voltages motors don't like voltages more than about 1500, because they start flat arcing internally with all the little windings and stuff. Motors can't really take much more than 1500 volts. So how do you, so what do you do with 3000? You just wire all your motors in series. Boom, everything's 1500. Today, with an AC propulsion system, you would just have like two back-to-back, looking at 1500 volts each. So, and anytime you'd have an AC motor or something like before AC variable frequency, everything would be like a 12K or a 25K system. The transformer would get everything into the up into the 1.5 kilovolt range. 1300 was, at that point it didn't really matter. You need it's just because you need a substation. It's the amps. The Dutch use 1.5 kilovolt, and it's slowly screwing them. Because they don't have the capacity. Like there's times in the Netherlands that like the wires are glowing. There are trains that are scheduled to stop. Wait, no, I might be mixing up that second one. But the Netherlands have major capacity problems with amps because the 1.5 kilovolt does not send a lot of amps. You need a lot of substations still. 12 kilovolt, you can get a substation every 10 miles instead of every 2 for 650. 25K, you can have substation every, nearly 20 to 50 miles. 25 miles, 25 to 50. NJCL has one substation. The 25K Boston Electrification has 3, I believe. So, no, it really makes sense. Yeah, 100% the PR did right for its use for AC. You can get a lot out of a 3 kV system. I told you all the problems that the Netherlands is having with their 1.5 kV system. My friend was livid in that when Metra had the opportunity to, when Metra Electric was when they were redoing theirs, he thought it was a colossal mistake for Metra to not take it up to 3K. They wouldn't have needed to really put on a lot more insulative or bridge clearances, but it would give them way more power. And you can run way more trains in the same sections because a DC system just draws tons and tons of amps on an acceleration. So trying to get here. Speaking of DC and acceleration, here we have Milford Mill. The Milford Mill station on the Baltimore Metro was well known for this curve that gets you really fantastic photo opportunities. And part of the chapter people wanted to go out to this place for this photo. Unfortunately, it's really hard. You do not have front end numbers on the equipment. By the way, these are Bud Universal Transit vehicles. They were shared with Miami. Again, these are some of the last vehicles that Bud built up there with the last ones with the CTA 2600s. These were built in 1983. They're just on they're getting replaced by a Breda product. I think that Miami got the same ones. Again, it's going to be branded as Hitachi, but it's Hitachi Rail Italy, aka it's Breda. Don't fall for their shenanigans. It's the same bobbity boopy Italians making your equipment, not the Japanese. Unfortunately, stupid Hitachi's they're moving away from a Tomlinson coupler to a Snappleberg, or I think it's called a Schadenfreude one. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's way more complicated. The Europeans just like it because it's strong, but it's really unnecessary at transit buff strengths and way more expensive. Why pay less when you could be more complicated? So I'm going to go here and before I go overboard, I just want to see what their numbers are on their rolling stock. Blah, 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 Bud. What are the damn numbers? Okay, I can still solve this problem. I got a shop tour in 2017. Okay, so they're numbered in the it looks like the 100 series. They built about 100 cars, like 90 something. They only need like 60 because they bought cars expecting to have the system to be expanded, and it just never was. Okay, so it looks like it's 100 to like 200. Okay. Move this down a little bit. There it goes. Do I have any idea what these car numbers are? I think I see a 3 on one of them. Good enough. Here we have one of the old cab signal bonds. This is what they're looking to replace. Apparently, these got all. They were going to have to do a full bond. Like, Hitachi sold them on. Hey, we'll sell you rail cars and a new signaling system for low prices. And they're not only going with a CBTC, but it's going to be everything backup is on axle counters. This is a complete shit show. Again, it'll be interesting to see if they have some sort of catastrophic accident because of it. Or it's Breda just wanted to, I think Baltimore mainly didn't realize that it didn't really care. No one really. It's a non-critical metro. So Hitachi or Breda gets to make out by installing it on they're installing it in a place that really doesn't matter. What's really interesting is that these impedance bonds don't look like the normal types that you're seeing all over the place today. So maybe they're using ones that didn't work very well. But I really got to get out there and get photos of the signaling before they screw it up. If you're wondering where that is, let me pull that up real quick. So, downtown Baltimore, the subway runs, like I said, the light rail is there. The subway sort of runs out this way and emerges there, and then runs along the old Western Maryland main line. That's where the yard is. Now where's Milford Mill? There's Milford Mill. So there's the famous Milford Mill curve. There's the Milford Mill interlocking where I got that picture of the impedance bond. They appear to have a pocket track there for short turns. And then it runs all the way out to Owings Mills along the 790, or what is that route? 795 right of way, and then just sort of abruptly ends at a giant park and ride at Owings Mill, which is only about halfway down the whole 795 whatever. Yeah, they don't even have any stations on it except that one at the end. That's where you can hit 70 miles an hour, which is pretty nice. Okie doke. Here we have another one that I probably not going to be able to get the number off of. Let's see. Yeah, see the number's like just there on the side. They don't have any. Why would you not put the number on the goddamn front of the train? Just super irritating. Well, I know when I go out there to grab the whatchamacallit, this one, this is an extra. See, it's got a no stops on it. Oh, maybe I could get the number off of it. No, I just can't. Can I? See, again, if I had more megapixels, I probably could pick the numbers off of these on my more modern camera, but I just can't see them. Looks like 1x9 and 1x10. Like 109 and 1010. I'll go with that. As long as I get something halfway decent. So yeah, that's going to be my big emergency, to get out and try to get Baltimore Metro stuff. But to get photos of every signal at each, if there's one, I don't know how, the headways are so bad, it's going to take me forever. Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do with for absolute block indications at the interlockings. Just keep the same lunar white flashing lunar, put in little cheesy arrow jobbers. I don't know. I wonder how I cropped that one before. I just didn't get a photo of it. Eh. Yeah, I can see the issue. That's fine. And see, I just can't see what the number is. Sorry, I'm sort of on the same thing here. What else did I have? There was one other thing that I thought I had to mention. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the axle counters work. Don't actually detect a train. Just assume. Just sort of imply that it's there. Given the way that U.S. employees don't tend to be so super strict on a lot of stuff, I'm gonna bet you're gonna see they're not gonna go through the resetting the axle counter provision, and they're gonna have a subway cream, a maintenance of way, or who knows what. But I will definitely get my butt back out there to see what I can do this year before they start. I probably have a couple of years, actually, because they're going to need to, even if the new cars are the first ones are delivered this year, they won't be able to get them into service immediately. I think that the new ones won't have the cab signals. They're just going to be, but they'll run joint cab and CBTC stuff. That's what I heard. There's a plan. We'll see how it goes. God, it's like, why? Oh, this one's going to Old Court. That's interesting. Sorry. Anyway, it's Baltimore got full use out of the UTVs. 40 years from 1983, 2023. It's a shame to see them go. Good Bud product. But it's not like a lot of other stuff like Metro or something where they toss them after they're tossing them too early. They got full life and did pretty well. Of course, they bought like twice the number of cars they needed. But still, all right. And here we are back at where is this? This is Camden Yards. I don't know what we did. By I don't know what we did is I guess we would have had to have transferred to a light rail back to a light rail somehow. Because people wanted to come down here again. This is odd. I would have thought they would have just gone right back to Penn Station. But anyway, see, I can see the numbers there: 20, 27, 50, 27. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. Fun fact: so the Baltimore there's definitely a huge culture difference between the light rail and the Baltimore heavy rail. Heavy rail is very old school, way less safety. Employees stealing stuff. This is when you take the shop tour, you can sort of see what the issues are. Light rail, way leaner, way meaner. I don't know how they maintain almost like two different cultures at the same organization. Another interesting thing at the light rail is that the numbers in the 5000 series are the next number series from the old Baltimore Transit Company's streetcars. So, but even back in the day, and they use the same like serif font for the letters that they would have used for the Baltimore Streetcar Museum. It's not museum, but the actual Baltimore like PCCs. So a lot of subtle history there, and the difference in culture really shows. Because he said we got the shop tour, they had this whole new system to prevent employees stealing the tools. And the guy was basically telling, it's like in Patco, when we were at the Patco shops, they had like laser fences. You can't that automatically shuts off the power if like someone like gets near the train, like they have to like energize one. So and you can't walk underneath the trains and the lifts at the Baltimore shops. They absolutely let the tour group walk under the trains on the lift. And the guy was saying how everyone who works there, how it's like it's like your badge of honor. Like every employee gets zapped by the 600 volts at some point, and it's just the thing that happens. Absolutely crazy. I mean, I'm not going to complain if it gets the job done, but oh man, that's such an interesting culture there. Okie dokie, that's everything. Thank you guys so much. Let me see if there's any questions in the chat. The Baltimore UTVs were built after the SPV 2000s. They came out around 1980. Late 70s, early 80s. They were kind of the last thing that used that Amfleet set. It was a series of things that sort of drove Bud out of the market. Number one was, the SPV didn't take off anywhere close to what it needed to. Then they didn't get the R62A contract. And then Amtrak, and then that was the next thing. And then they were sort of on their way out because Krupp owned Bud. And, of course, they're going to be working under team orders from Germany to say knock these dipshits out of the market so Siemens and etc. can sell in there. And then the last thing was it became clear that Amtrak was not going to be getting any major car orders, especially for the Viewliners. They thought that they could get a huge Viewliner order to do general replacement of all the Heritage fleet. There's a lot of Heritage running around, but then it came out it was going to be 50 sleepers, and that was sort of like that was really the last straw for constructing. That was just not enough cars. I think if they had done, there's a lot of single levels still running around. Ultimately, the Superliner 2 replaced a lot of the Heritage fleet, and then later on the Viewliner 2 order. But Bud was expecting to have that Viewliner 2 plus Superliner 2 order go to them in the 80s, and that was like the last attempt. All right, I got to get going. Thank you guys so much for attending. I'm glad to see it. Really good attendance, really good viewership today. Look for me next week, Monday after Memorial to Tuesday, and then Tuesday to Wednesday. I will try to find something to do that fits in those 2 days. So unless something happens, I'll see you then. Have a great evening, and have a great night, a great week, etc. And good Memorial Day.